morning and welcome to the April 6, 2017 edition of FRCMedia News. I'm Keith Tebow. This week, Fall River Mayor Jaziel Correa gives us an update on what's happening economic development-wise here in the city. We provide details about the activities being held in Fall River in connection with the Youth Violence Prevention Week. And we hear from one state representative about the multi-billion-dollar proposed state budget for fiscal year 2018. But first, let's check in on the news headlines of the week. As we do each week, we bring in Will Richmond, the digital news editor at the Fall River Herald News. Will, how are you this week?
I'm good, Keith. How are you doing?
Good, thanks. Let's start with local unemployment numbers. Unfortunately, the numbers not good for the city of Fall River. In the month of February, the city recorded an unemployment rate of 8.5%. That was higher than the 7.9% in the month of January and 4.9% in December. When you see these numbers, they are sometimes shocking and glaring, but could seasonal hiring be the reason for this uptick in the unemployment rate?
Yeah, I think there's some seasonal aspects of this. You're coming off of the holiday season hiring, but not yet reaching the construction season type of hiring, especially with a rougher February, and March isn't in these numbers yet, but the expectations of a rough March could hold off construction projects as well. So I think that may be somewhat of the reason for the increase as this rate has gone up over the last 3 or 4 months.
And unfortunately, of the gateway cities or the cities in Massachusetts, Fall River has the highest unemployment rate at 8.5%. New Bedford right behind at 7.9%. And we've talked about this a lot, Will, that the South Coast at times tends to lag the rest of the Commonwealth in terms of employment, and these numbers are bearing that out. One thing that I want to ask you, and we've talked about it here, a lot has been made. Last week, our big story was the grand opening celebration at Amazon from a week and a half ago. It appears that those Amazon numbers may not be reflected in these reports. Do you know if it takes a while for those numbers to kick in?
I'm not sure on the time frame for them to kick in. In terms of the workforce at Amazon, there may still be a settling out of the employee numbers. Mm-hmm. So even though they've hired 1,800 people, my thinking would be that they've hired more than the 1,800 people since they've opened. Some of them have left, weren't fits for the company. So those numbers may fluctuate in terms of who's working and who's not working, despite the net total of new jobs added by the arrival of Amazon.
Right, and maybe this is a better question for the Career Center that helps with these numbers, or even the Department of Labor here in Massachusetts, on how they actually, when is someone officially unemployed? Is there a period of time? Same thing with employment, right? Does someone need to be employed for a while before they're actually off the unemployment roll? So that's probably a question that was unfair for you, but probably meant for someone else, but I apologize for that. All right, moving along elsewhere in the news this week, for the second time, the city of Fall River, and particularly Mayor Correa's office, coming under fire a little bit about its work in terms of issuing contracts to cities, city contractors who have applied for work here in Fall River. Last month, we talked about how a consulting firm which was looking at ways to sell some abandoned property in Fall River, mainly the former police station, was awarded a contract to do that consulting work, also was involved in creating the request for proposals for that job. And for the second time, it looks like the city has done that again. The consulting firm, which ultimately went out on a $50,000 contract for the city's remarketing campaign, the Make It Here campaign, was also involved in creating the criteria for that contract. And even though apparently that practice is not illegal, it is sometimes a little shaky on some, saying that this person who helped create the request for proposals for the contract ended up getting the contract, some sort of insider deal, if you will. So talk a little bit about how that process has worked and how some people are objecting to it.
Yes, certainly it's, as you mentioned, it's not illegal. At the state level, it is not considered a best practice. Mm-hmm. They tend to recommend that there are maybe multiple consultants who offer input on a potential RFP that goes out. So, you know, they're certainly not doing anything that is illegal, but
Hmm.
it is not the best practice. Um, you know, at the federal level, if you participate in the creation of a request for proposals or request for bids, you're not allowed to bid on the
Hmm.
proposal. So this is leading, you know, city councilors to suggest that maybe a similar method should be put in place here in Fall River. We'll certainly see where that goes. You know, we've seen the relationship between the city council and the mayor's office and how that's worked over the last couple months. So
Hmm.
um, it may pass at the city council level, and we'll see what that means going forward. But yeah, this is now a, you know, more than a coincidence that the companies that are being selected for as bid winners are the ones who are having significant input on the bid creations as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, specifically on the city's marketing campaign, the company EGN Consulting of Lincoln, Rhode Island, did some work for the Correa administration last August to develop the criteria that was going into this request for proposals or request for bid, and then they ended up winning the bid at the end of some, as I said, some $50,000. So Councilor Cliff Ponte, as you mentioned, Will, looking to potentially create an ordinance which would um, uh, disqualify those who placed input in an RFP from bidding on that. So we'll see how that goes moving forward. South Coast Rail back in the news regionally, not necessarily here in Fall River. We talked about a couple of weeks back that the Department of Transportation looking to provide a two-phase approach in terms of South Coast Rail, with the first phase having the rail service come through the Middleborough line, then sort of hanging a right, if you will, coming south to Taunton and then down to the south coast. And then phase two would be what would have been the original plan coming through the Stoughton route. While people in Taunton seems to be objecting to that phase one of the plan. Originally in the second phase, the Stoughton line, there were to be two stops in Taunton, and under the Middleborough proposal, only one stop, and that was actually on the Taunton Berkeley town line, where that stop would be. And I know Senator Mark Pacheco has been against it, as well as Mayor Hoy, in looking at the fact that that original line, that phase one line, would not actually go into downtown Taunton as they would like. So Taunton putting up a little bit of an objection to the phase one of the project. Can you give us any updates?
Yeah, so yesterday on Wednesday, Senator Pacheco, in his role as chairman of the Senate's Committee on Global Warming and Climate Change, held a hearing on the South Coast Rail change of notice plan in the Middleborough route. Um, you know, Pacheco is the only South Coast senator that sits on that committee. So it was probably pretty obvious going into this that it was going to be a questionnaire on why is this not going through Taunton, or are there any guarantees that this will go through Taunton down the road. Unfortunately, the head of Mass DOT, Stephanie Pollock, did not attend the hearing, which did not seem to sit very well with Senator Pacheco.
Mm.
There were staff from Mass DOT there, along with Gene Fox, the Freetown resident who is the South Coast Rail program manager. So, you know, the fight is on. Senator Pacheco, Mayor Hoy, and Taunton have been very vocal about their want to have this go through Taunton. They do lose any downtown presence of commuter rail if this goes through the Middleborough route. So they are going to keep the pressure on. Will certainly be interesting, as we've seen the Fall River delegations, elected officials at the city level in both Fall River and New Bedford have come on board with the Middleborough plan. So, you know, the proponents of that plan are stacking up uh,
Mm.
as opposed to the Taunton group. So, you know, there might be difficult to get the influence on the Taunton end to see this rail go through Stoughton and Stoughton only, as the Taunton group may want.
Yeah, I mean, the push is to get South Coast Rail into this region by 2022. At least that would be the case if they went to the Middleborough route. And then when they eventually come up with the Stoughton route, that's looking at as far ahead as 2028. And I know the Taunton people are saying, well, if the Middleborough route becomes successful, there may not be a need to do the phase two, which is the Stoughton route. So we'll have to continue to follow up on that. Will, finally, the Herald just completed its long series on homelessness here in the greater Fall River area. If you can just give us a synopsis on, what the paper learned and how severe the problem is.
Yeah, well, certainly the impetus for doing this project was when we recently came across the number of there being nearly 400 homeless people accounted for in the city that, within the last couple of years, despite a plan announced 11 years ago to end chronic homelessness within 10 years. At that point, there were roughly 150 homeless in the city. So we noticed that the numbers were going in the opposite direction of what had been hoped for. Along the way, we've come to find, resources are tough. There's a very strong need for coordination of resources, making it easier for users of the system to be able to access information that they need, know where to go to get that information, as well as to provide shelter services going forward, which has long been in the purview of the churches in the city, and some changes that are coming with that as the Durfee Street Center opens up.
Yeah, so very compelling series. So, so what else is coming up on the Herald coming up in the next few days?
Sure. We'll have a wrap-up. We had a sit-down with Attorney General Maura Healey yesterday. Pretty wide-ranging sit-down, but we'll have a wrap-up on that conversation, as well as a look back at a kidney transplant survivor that we talked to some 15 years ago to see how she's doing now.
All right, sounds good. All right, Will, we'll talk again next week. Have a good one.
Have a good weekend, Keith.
Thanks. We'll have more FRC Media News right after this.
Here are some job descriptions on the latest hot jobs list from the Fall River Career Center. Product Line Manager, Atlantic Lighting Incorporated, located at 231 Commerce Drive, has an immediate opening for a full-time product line manager with experience in LED light fixtures and a technical background in manufacturing or engineering. Job number 875-6253. Licensed Registered Nurse, Crawford Health and Rehab Center, located at 273 Oak Grove Avenue, is in need of a full or a part-time licensed registered nurse. Must have RN or LPN license and CPR certificate with previous nursing experience. Job number 875-5846. Legal Assistant, Farias Law, located at 277 Bedford Street, is seeking a full-time legal assistant for a family law practice to support the firm. Make daily contact with clients, attorneys, court personnel, and help to grow the family law practice. Job number 875-6357. Millstone Medical Outsourcing, located at 580 Commerce Drive, is looking to fulfill the following positions. Lead Receiver, job number 873-9435. Peel Test Associate, job number 873-9420. Label Operator, job number 873-9445. Packaging Associate, job number 873-9414. For more information on these or other positions, visit FRCmedianews.org or call the Fall River Career Center at 508-730-5000.
Welcome back. Mayor Jaziel Correa posted a video on his Facebook page this week that outlined some key issues within the city that he's currently addressing.
Hello everybody, this is Mayor Jaziel Correa with another video blog. A really exciting week here. We just got back from a port conference and we were talking about our state pier, which is the Fall River Line Pier down on our waterfront, kind of underneath the bridge next to the battleship. And we're talking about the future of that pier because it's kind of just sat there. It's done a little bit of work. You have some shipping coming in. You have some use of that port, but not a lot. It could be used a lot more, whether it's in terms of more shipping and importing and exporting, whether that's the line of rail that goes into the facility, whether that's the Block Island Ferry leaving from the building. There's a lot more things that we can do there to make that an active port. We don't know at this point, and we're going to be creating a report over the next 2 months, if the future of the port will really be in any one direction. It could be a mixed-use component. It could be some entertainment with maybe a small convention center on our waterfront inside the building that's there. It may be revamping the entire building. It may be creating more storage space for outdoor containers. And then also it may be more Block Island kind of ferry type boats, so other ferries to Newport or Providence or Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket. So we're looking at all those different options. But it was a great conference. We learned a lot about our port. We learned a lot about other ports, and I think you'll see some updates about that in the next couple months. So we're happy to report that. So another thing that we've been working on is economic development. So we're going to be beginning the process of implementing what we believe is the future of economic development for the city of Fall River in conjunction with multiple partners. Those partners would include the Redevelopment Authority, which is basically an entity that owns and buys different types of land in the city. They are the ones that created the biotechnology park where Amazon exists. We'll be working with the Fall River Office of Economic Development. We'll be working with the Community Development Agency. We'll be working with nonprofits and businesses in our community, the Chamber of Commerce as well, to really construct an economic development policy going forward that makes sense for the city of Fall River. We really don't know what the direction is right now. I hear a lot of things out there while I'm traveling the city, whether it's about the STAR facility, whether it's about housing issues in our community, whether it's about our waterfront, whether it's about the businesses that are going to locate in our biotechnology point. And unfortunately, when I sit down as mayor, I don't see a strategic plan in place. So the goal that we have right now is to create an office of economic development, one that the city is really the driving factor, and then take that office and work with all these other entities to really come up with a great economic development policy for the future of our city.
Back in January, Massachusetts Governor Charlie Baker proposed his plans for the state budget for fiscal year 2018. Later this month, the proposal will go before the House for input and revision. 6th District State Representative Carol Fiola says she's eager to start reviewing the financial package.
It's beginning to get really ramped up. We have a budget coming forward. We have the governor's budget in front of us, and by the middle of April we will have our House Ways and Means budget, and then we'll kind of work on that for about 2 weeks, and then we will send it over to the Senate. So we've got about probably a little over $40 million budget, billion-dollar budget, and a lot of needs. So we're evaluating all of that right now.
State budget must be signed into law by the beginning of the new fiscal year, which starts on July 1st. We'll have more FRC Media News right after this.
So this is Baby. Baby's a 3-year-old Chihuahua, and she's just a little bit overweight, as you can tell. She's not much of a player. She's not big on, playing with toys, chasing balls, playing tug, that kind of stuff. Much more of a lap dog. She's a little bit on the more timid side, so a nice quiet home would probably be best for her. She had an injury when she was younger. Her front left leg there was broken and didn't set right, unfortunately. But she's otherwise healthy. She's just a little timid. If you're looking for a nice, calm little lap dog, she's definitely right up your alley. If you want to come down and meet her, we're at Forever Paws. We're at 300 Linwood Street here in Fall River, Massachusetts.
Today I'd like you to meet Rick. Rick is only 2 years old, but when he arrived here with his parents, he was scared of everything and very combative. As you see, he's not that cat anymore, and he is ready for adoption. And he would like to find a good, loving home that can give him what he needs. So if you want to come and see him, we're located at 300 Linwood Street in Fall River, and we are open 11 to 4 every day but Wednesday. And I think Rick would like to see you too.
Welcome back. It's National Youth Violence Prevention Week. Each year in April, a week is set aside to raise awareness pertaining to the problems and solutions in preventing youth violence. Here in Fall River, the city's Youth Services Coordinator, Christian McCloskey, explains that part of the funding for educational services is channeled through the school system by state grants.
Durfee High School hosted police youth dialogues with some students having or beginning conversations with members of the police department. Yesterday, the DAs hosted a teen safety summit at the Venus de Milo. There were numerous workshops, including one by the police department about gang prevention. Tonight, we're hosting our annual Youth Violence Prevention Information Presentation, which we highlight the Shannon and Safe and Successful Youth Initiative, as well as other programs going on. And tonight, there's going to be a panel discussion, which participants get to hear from the youth from the Shannon and SSYI grant. And we're going to be challenging the participants to what can you do to be part of our initiative.
Moskowski also says that violence prevention efforts are really a year-long venture.
We're looking to tie in all the activities that are going on throughout the year. So next Monday, RPA is going to be hosting their annual Youth Empowerment Conference, and this year they're going to tie in a peace march from RPA down to Government Center. We have Confronting Discrimination, our annual Piece by Piece Summit. Boys and Girls Club is going to be hosting a special segment of Police Youth Dialogues. It's really something we're going to be focusing on this year, is engaging in that dialogue between both the police and the youth and changing perceptions on each side. Then we'll have our annual kickoff to Peaceful Summer with J&J organization, and then this fall looking to host a youth forum.
A 71-year-old Fall River man arrested recently on his 5th drunk driving and related motor vehicle charges is being held without bail while his case is pending. Manuel Valente of 76 Hunter Street was determined to be a danger to the community following a recent dangerousness hearing in 2nd District Court. During the hearing, it had been determined that Valente is a danger to the community, and as a result, he will be detained without bail for up to 120 days while his case is pending. He's scheduled to return to court for a status review on July 28th. Valente was arrested for the 5th time when police saw the car he was driving swerving along a roadway in Swansea late last month. Valente failed field sobriety test and was arrested. It was later learned that Valente had lost his driver's license as a result of the 4 previous driving under the influence charges filed against him. That'll do it for this edition of FRC Media News. You can catch FRC Media News Thursday and Friday at 6 p.m. and online 24/7 at frcmedianews.org. For all of us here at FRC Media News, I'm Keith Tebow. Have a great week. We'll see you next Thursday.